I love to read poems and I love to tell stories, so we're going to kind of do a little bit of each. And I'm keeping my eye on the time here so I don't keep you for too long. But I thought I'd read the first one about one of my prime weaknesses when I am attempting to read my own work or other people's work, and that is that I cry. So I'm going to try very hard not to cry tonight, but I thought I'll start with this poem called I Hold Poems. Those most beautiful I can't read for a crowd. When Sexton, blind with love, sees her daughter's life stretched out. When Thomas sings in his chains like the sea and refuses to mourn. Once I am in that cold embrace, they carry me along and up and down the peaks of waves. I am in thrall. They make me pull in my breath. My throat aches its resistance. And sometimes in my search for words, I feel my face draw shut when an image opens tender as a wound in my mouth. Sometimes I write about my father, discovering even after 50 years the fresh mark of his inscrutable rage and reading it as loss. Once I took him out and brought a book of poems. He complained about the slowness of the coffee, barked at the waiter for not knowing that Belgian waffles have strawberries, not peaches, God damn it! I read him a poem by Shelley, one that wouldn't bring me to shame, and another by Hopkins that almost did. Now you, I said, sliding the book across. He turned the pages and began, stopped, began again, then in mid-sentence, closed the book. Can't, he said, and looked away, my father bearing my unshed tears. So in honor of finally getting to do this residency in France, which has been on hold for 5 years, I'm going to read this little poem that I did in a poetry class with some teenagers, and I told them write in a language other than English. So all the kids in my class wrote in Chinese, even the kid from Japan. They all wrote in Chinese, and I wrote in French. And we got up and read our poems to each other, and I didn't speak Chinese, and they didn't speak French, and it was kind of fun and hilarious, and it just gives you another way in. And the victory that I found was the girl who said, oh, I need to go home tonight and study my Chinese. And I was like, yes! It's the middle of the summer and she's got to go home and study her Chinese. So that made me really happy. So this one is in French and then I'll read the English translation. And I'm not even going to tell you what it means until I read the translation, because I think one of the things about poetry is just the sounds of the words and to hear the beauty of any language and its sounds. So this poem is called Ce que mon nom veut dire. Mon nom veut dire courage, passion, pureté. Mon nom veut dire ce qu'un oiseau dit quand il vole dessus une temple, ce qu'un enfant dit quand elle imagine des âmes dans des dessins de craie. Mon nom veut parler des escaliers, d'ascension, du baptême, des flammes. De nuit en nuit, mon nom s'inquiète. Il marche la longue des corridors en conjurant des images de nœuds. Le matin, il se réveille. Dans la fenêtre, un oiseau, ses ailes en feu, chante la rythme de mon nom. What my name wants to say. My name wants to say courage, passion, purity. My name wants to say what a bird says when it flies over a temple, what a child says when she imagines souls in chalk drawings. My name wants to speak of stairs, of baptism, flames. Night after night, my name frets. It walks the halls, conjuring images of knots. In the morning, it wakes. In the window, a bird, its wings on fire, sings the rhythm of my name. So now we get into a little bit of, I guess, kind of confessional poetry, if you will. I like to I write confessional poetry, but I do like to aim for a kind of a universal within it. This was one that took me a little while to write, and what you need to understand about this poem, and I've been given permission to say this, to reveal this, is that I have a daughter who was born a son. And this is the story of that. Falling boy. She has been here all along with her sharp, wild smell, the face in my backyard. She is all teeth and eyes formed slick and steaming from the fall leaves, while my son cuts circles in the flooded patio with his bike wheels. The leaf face watches, framed by the dollhouse doorway. Her cheekbones are chiseled like a cougar's, and her mouth is hungry. I wonder if she is a sign. I fear I've let something fly into the house with my questions and shamanic ways. Jesus is cool on my lips, a swaddled infant with the face of the sun. I kiss his forehead, sing a Sabbath blessing. My son is light and leaf dry, fragile web of veins like the waxed wings of a butterfly. We are not worthy of God's presence, I tell him. Mommy, he says, that is very bad news. The falling boy steps into position. I close my eyes. Inside the house, water presses on the pipes. A heavy eiderdown dozes on the bed. Clothes lie loose in lacquered baskets. And in my attic, a spinning wheel waits for a 16-year-old girl to prick her finger, a sting I cannot stop. I want to huddle in the harboring moss, nestle in a branch laden with lion's teeth and lichen, rocked on gusts of guesswork. Please, God, I pray, please. The falling boy pirouettes on his perch. Come down from there, I call. Come down. Days swim by, and years, while my son, green and gay, grows up lovely like grass between stones. The silent watcher keeps her vigil, fierce and fragile both. It was battle got me here, the shields and lances I called up, the invitations I denied in the name of goodness. It should not surprise me to find myself under her feline gaze. Each day I kiss the icon of Christ, chant an akathist for lost children. But the falling boy is already on his way down the sky. I want to net him up like a salmon, but he'll only break through and shoot the rapids. I don't have the teeth I think I do. It is longing at last that sets my son on the attic steps, winds him up and up until he finds a mirror and sees a girl of 16 spinning on a wheel that turns and turns and does not break. And when at last it stretches her into sleep, he wonders if it's best the thorns grow up to keep her sheltered here. It is his final thought. Days swim by, and years. By the time I am spun into an abrupt about face, the truth has been knocking inside me for a century. I wake on a night the stars seize the sky like lion's teeth. Jesus sits cradling my head in his lap. He fell, I say, my Icarus. Jesus nods. The thorns are in his hands. He gathers leaves in his long fingers. A stealthy wind yanks my hair, bites at the back of my neck, weaves between my legs, cat-like and golden. My daughter, bereft of wings, holds out the cloak she spun for 100 years. So this one is called Stones, and I wrote this for Poets Against Hate. I guess I'll just read it. It begins and ends with lines out of Arthur Miller's The Crucible. So it starts with an epigraph and then it ends with a couple of lines from The Crucible. So if you're familiar with that play, you'll recognize those lines. Stones. Great stones they lay upon his chest until he plead aye or nay. It were a fearsome man, Giles Corey, Arthur Miller, The Crucible. There's more to Dad's legacy than this. There's his resonant voice reading Tennyson. There's John McCormick on the record player, the immigrant great-grandparents who pass their Irishness down like a wishing stone. There are the 6 siblings, the poverty, the small Protestant Iowa town he left behind. Then World War II, the GI Bill, and Dad arriving finally, victoriously, in law school. But there is also this, the onus of other, that must be handed on like an ill-fitting jacket to someone else. The blacks, the gays, the is short for them. He would enumerate their sins, enumerate any sins, crime, violence, ignorance, existence. Always they were on trial, and always he'd produce ample evidence for conviction. You're just naive, he'd tell me. When you're older, you will understand. His certainty squeezed my rib cage, sucked the breath out of my lungs, each charge like a stone upon my chest. His witness was only, my witness, was only flimsy principles, do unto others, all created equal, against the crush of his convictions, argued with the zealotry of a true believer. We know who the real problem is, but we're too politically correct to say so. Bit by bit, his bigotry diminished him in my eyes. I saw how it possessed him, how it took his every good thought captive. I couldn't see then that he was shoring up his own fortress as his life grew smaller, as victory gave way to despair, and the law office gave way to homelessness. He didn't blame the devil for his troubles. He found devils in human beings, so much easier when you can identify the guilty party. In time, I found my own them in people who read the Bible differently than I did, or didn't read it at all. They were the liberals, the atheists, the literati. Then, as I evolved toward enlightenment, they were the conservatives, the narrow. Thank God I am not like that billionaire, and conveniently I will never be a billionaire. Because all this hating is not from me, it's them that are the haters. I am a Seattle native, well, not native exactly, but you know what I mean. I give my money to the right campaigns. I am the mother of a queer child. Some of my best friends are black. I get a pass. But stone upon stone, the accusations build. I want it off my chest, this legacy. Can't you see that I am innocent? They say, he gave them but 2 words, more weight, he said, and died. So my dad was a complex man. I loved him very much. And he struggled with mental illness. And so one of the things that came up a lot was suicide threats and suicidal ideation. And that's something that I've kind of struggled with my whole life. I'm working on a book right now that sort of addresses that, where I'm actually having to kind of, I took this poor 17-year-old character and gave her my family. So she travels in time to kind of escape my adolescence, I suppose. But it's been many years of working through, but he was a paradox. He was a lovely man, actually, but also often really ugly, and it's always been hard to reconcile, but I guess that's, I think some of the ugliness, the racism in particular, I felt like maybe I hid behind his racism, because if he was a racist, then I was this great, wonderful, open-minded person. You know, I mean, I could just talk about that and not deal with myself. So I think when we're unhappy with our parents, sometimes we do need to look inside a little bit and see what's going on in there. This is from Considering Flight, which I wrote over 10 years ago. And it was sort of me as an adult having a conversation with him. And he was still living when I wrote this, and he read it. In fact, I found it among his things. I found it right next to where he sat every day, a copy of Considering Flight, and then a copy of a short story by that title that I had written previously and that dealt with this topic, and which I gave to him. And so this is called Bridge 1, and it's about having given him that story and sort of opened that topic up for the first time as an adult and said, hey, this is what it was like, Dad, kind of thing, you know. And so here we are. Bridge 1. The night I give you the story to read, I walk across the Duval Bridge to photograph the moon. Midsummer now, and she hangs like a pomegranate pregnant with seed. I try not to imagine the drop to black water. My hand tightens on the rail as a pickup blows past. In the story, I am 16, and you listen to Elizabeth Schwarzkopf on the stereo while Mom tells you to get a job. I'm studying for a final in molecular biology. You say no, you're a lawyer, damn it, and that is your job. Mom says we're eligible for food stamps. You tell her you are about to take flying lessons off the Aurora Bridge. In the story, I come out of my room and stop you, only you don't stop. You drive to the Aurora Bridge and the water swirls brown far beneath you. Once a metro bus was crossing that bridge when a man shot the driver. The bus leapt from the pavement and briefly soared. Another time a woman stood at the rail. It was 5:30 with commuters stopped for miles while she tried to decide. Some guys in a pickup kept yelling, "Jump, bitch." It's just before midnight when I walk the bridge. At first I cannot find the moon at all. Then there she is behind trees. I had thought to capture her reflected on the water. Instead she's caught like a cradle in the branches. In the story, I talk to you on the telephone at 3 in the morning. I tell you to keep breathing until you hit the water, then hold your nose and kick for all you're worth. Tonight, you are on the 11th floor and cannot see the moon because your apartment faces west. Before I gave you the story, we gave each other speeches about Mom. She doesn't understand me either. The camera in my pocket came from Rite Aid, and I've already used 18 shots. The moon looks phony through the lens, like a utility light in someone's garage. The picture will come out a blurry spot. Someone will mistake it for a rabbit. By now, you've read my version of our suicide. I call it that even though we are still alive. I say it just to be ironic. In the morning, I'll squeeze a few more shots to finish off the roll. I'll shoot the dogs and kids, the peonies in the garden, the ones I've just discovered have a smell. I can take the film to a 1-hour shop in town. While I wait, I might go to the bridge where the moon has dropped her seeds. I don't know if I'll find you there. I don't know if you'll pick up the blood-red seeds the moon has dropped. You know me sometimes better than the dad I thought I wanted. Is it because we've both considered flight? Bridge 2, Crossing. In the story, I called you a monster. You said other people's renditions of a man were never complimentary. That's how I felt, I say. I was 16. I am crossing the floating bridge. The phone receiver buzzes in my ear. Someone has taken away the whirligig fountains at the West End. You say, no, you can't get together for a drink or even coffee. You slept not enough, you say, didn't get to bed till 7 in the morning. You have laundry to wash and want to sleep some more. Maybe I could have called earlier. This shoots a hole in all your plans. I say, yeah, okay, I only thought we should talk after the story. I never said those things, you say, not to you, only to your mother. You did, I say, and I would freeze. Maybe you didn't know that I was there, but I remember the way it felt the night I heard the blue electric jolt between my shoulder blades, how after that everything had changed. Your mother, you say, your mother, your mother, your mother. I have crossed the gray water and now must merge with traffic. If you died to her, you think you'd not be dead to me? I'm near the exit to your place. I wonder if I could just come up to your apartment and help you fold your shirts. It's poison with smoke in there, but so is the Blue Moon Tavern where I decide I'll go instead. I'd worried my chronology would hurt you, drive you out that 11th floor window after all. But now I see you're nestled with your wound. The marks fit just so around your neck. You need to finger them for comfort. All right then. I've no need for irony. You're neither monster nor angel to me now. Still father. But I feel the lines of burning in my scapulars. Scars, perhaps. Or wings. So this is from my work in progress, and this is a book, it's a novel in verse, it's a YA novel in verse, it's called Looking Glass Girl, and in this section, the main character's name is Alice, so of course Looking Glass Girl. She's a volunteer at the Seattle Art Museum, and she's dealing with kind of the same family issues that I did. And at this point in the story, she has gone to her dad's office. She's heard that he has a suicide letter and that he keeps it with him. And she thinks if I could just find it, maybe I could get him some help. I could find it, I could show it to someone, and maybe I could get some help for him. So she's done that. She's gone to his office, she rummaged through his drawers while he wasn't there, and in fact, the letter was in the drawer. And this actually happened. I did do this. But I didn't work at the Seattle Art Museum. And the rest of this is, it's highly fictionalized, but it is kind of drawn from some situations. So this is right after she's read the letter, which is heartbreaking. In fact, it's the most beautiful letter he ever wrote me. It wasn't just a suicide letter. It was, but it was the most honest he'd ever been with me. And while it's a terrible thing, I treasure that letter. So, here's what happens. This is called To-Do List. I tuck the letter back inside its envelope and stare at the jugs of floor cleaner lining the bottom shelf. I close my eyes for a moment, then open them. No tears, no time for questions, just go, go, go. Find the number for Seattle Mental Health. Call them. Show them the letter. Show them how. Is their office downtown? Close by? This mildew smell is killing me. It only takes a minute to make the call. When I hang up, I can't remember what I said or what they said, except that they would send someone here to meet me in the forum. I've barely escaped the supply closet when I'm caught. Ty, this is the boy that she's in love with, and she said this horribly racist thing to him, kind of based on things that her dad said, and so she feels like she can't talk to him. Ty, just passing. He swings his head around, looks from the closet door to me, and his eyes widen. The letter feels like it's burning a hole in my palm. Ty's eyes feel like they're burning a hole in my soul. I said those words to him about gangs. I made him into a gangsta. The other letter, the one with the sketch, is hidden in my bag, a weight of questions at the back of the volunteer room cupboard. I sneak a glance at him, then look away. Stay with the plan. Stay with the list. 1, get to the forum. 2, meet the mental health person. 3, show them the letter. Head down, I dash past him. I don't stop until I get to the volunteer desk. And Willie, still in her feathered bonnet, turns her face to me, strangely sad. Alice, she puts her hand on my arm. I spoke with your mother before she left. Are you all right? Mom talked to Willie? What did she say? Why Willie? Mom doesn't know her, except for on the phone. I sputter. They're meeting me they're coming here to the forum. As garbled as it is, she seems to understand, at least, that it's something to do with whatever Mom told her. "Let's get you to the volunteer room," she says. "I'll send the person to you when they get here. No one should need the room for at least an hour." She bustles me upstairs, then takes a note card, writes "private meeting," and sticks it on the door. "Is this a relative who's coming?" she asks. "No, it's someone from, I don't know them." Dad's letter is folded up in my pocket with the scarf. I'm not sure I really want to hand it over to a stranger. Willie sits down in a chair across from me. "Alice," she says, "I was married for 25 years to a man with severe bipolar disorder. I loved him, but there were many nightmare days. We had 3 children, and I didn't know until they grew up how it had affected them. They simply would not talk about it, not any of them." I find my voice. "What happened?" Willie is quiet. "He died, honey. She doesn't continue, but I know from her face that he took his own life. "I'm sorry." Willie takes my hand. "This is not about me, honey. That was a long time ago. If this person who is coming is someone you can talk to, who can help you, you talk. You let it all out. You don't stay silent." Dad's letter is lead in my pocket. She thinks this is a counselor coming to comfort me because of something I have no control over. But I do have controls. I have the letter, and I will use it to save him. And this comes right after. This is called Lullaby. They don't send one person. They send 2. Gina, tall and angular like an African sculpture, and Hakeem, shorter than Gina, with a round, friendly face. I put the letter on the table and my betrayal is complete. I watch, picking at my fingernails as Gina slides each page to Hakeem after reading it. Dad's most private thoughts laid bare, words he'd hoped I'd never see. Sometimes they use a straitjacket. That's what Mom's therapist said when she took me to him after her "dad is mentally ill" speech. She wanted to prepare me, she said, for what might happen if Dad got out of control. Back then I thought it was extreme, but now I imagine him bundled around himself, all in white, down the halls of the interurban building, out the front door with the other lawyers watching. Hakeem's eyes dart back and forth across the lines. I think of my mother's voice singing me to sleep, sweet and low, wind of the western sea, low, low, breathe and blow. That's where I want to go, back to being 6 years old, back before I knew anything. Gina reaches across the table to touch my hand, and my throat tightens. Don't be nice to me, don't. I swallow down my sorrow. No time. Will his head be bowed, or will it be defiant when I send them to steal the last vestige of his dignity? Over the rolling waters go. It's to help him. He needs help. Come from the dying moon and blow. I have become my mother, merged with her certainty about his sanity, willing to sell him. I want to tell him, you must understand how it is. We can't be a stupid bitch anymore. We can't walk anymore on the thin glass of threats. But I want you alive, please, alive. They will take him, white as the dying moon. Over the rolling waters, they will stay the course of my treachery. There will be warm plates of food, soft blankets, and a bed. They will sing to him, low, low, breathe and blow. They will blow him again to me. I'm going to finish with a healing poem. Ironically, this one came when someone close to me had come close to suicide and had been checked into a mental health facility for her own safety, and I was feeling very heavy and protective of her, and like I couldn't do anything. And in the middle of the night, I just went outside. So this is about that, and maybe it ends on a... There is healing. For all of this, there's healing. Sky. When the weight comes down like an iron sleeve, when your rib cage turns to lead and your heart is a trapped bird, you steal outside, and the darkness holds you in its lush embrace. Your feet test for balance along the shoulder of the hill until you come to a flat spread of ground. You are too full of words, crowded with the names of things instead of what they are. You pull your robe tighter and the thoughts throng inside your head. Around you, the calls of night birds answer the scrape, scrape of the frog's song, while fir and maple spread their arms. It is the sweet hum of the dusky earth that draws you down until you are stretched out, cradled, hips, spine, neck, head, and above you, the sky. It stretches beyond and beyond, star-thick, a crowd of planets and constellations, the streak of a sudden meteor. You want to fall into the sky, to let it drink you like water. You want to stay until your ribs spring open and you are swept clean of every word and plan. You untie your robe and slide your arms free. The night caresses your bare skin. The stars gaze at you. You let the sky fill you up until it sings inside your bones. When you return to your bed, to the four walls of your room, you carry the sky with you, a tiny, hidden seed.